I wanted to talk about fashion and retail. The fashion industry, especially online, is a highly competitive space. And people don't have much brand loyalty. What they tend to do is search for very generic keywords such as black dress. And it's therefore critically important that you are appearing for those kind of search terms. But the trouble is, because it's such a fierce competitive industry, you don't always appear because you get limited by budget or someone bigger is out competing you. So what I want to talk about today is how you can use the cloud to overcome that limitation. And by the end of this talk, I'm going to show you how we managed to get a 93% impression share. That's 93% more people seeing your paid search ads for the same spend, which is a fantastic result. And whenever I see I'm quite a technical person, so whenever I see case studies, I like to know the technical details. I only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to present as many of them as I can. But if any of it doesn't make sense, then we have a guy from Jellyfish in the room who's sitting in the front row with a ponytail, looks like a pirate. Mo, do you want to give us a wave? There we go. So you can go and talk to him. He looks like a pirate. All right. So this is a case study from one of our clients that we run at Jellyfish. It is a high street fashion retailer. They have a lot of stores globally. This isn't a new player. It's well respected, well known in the industry. But even they have difficulty competing against some of the larger brands. And as I said, search is critical to growth. So before I get into the details, I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. If you've seen and been to London, you will know this image very clearly. It's Piccadilly Circus, and in Piccadilly Circus, you have these big advertising banners. Now, the one at the top here, everyone is going to see it. It's so visible, you can't miss it if you're standing in central London. So in a paid search term, we would say this ad has 100% impression share. It means everyone searching for a relevant keyword that you are bidding on, your ad will always appear. Now take this guy down here. They've done less well because there's a bus in the way and there's a traffic light in the way. So these guys have lower impression share. They've got about 10%, I guess, at a guess. And in the paid search world, this would be the equivalent of being on page 2 or being below the fold. And you can guess which of these, if these were two companies in the fashion space, you could guess which of these ones was going to grow faster and get more business. And you might think, well, that's great, but Coca-Cola have got way more money, so of course they're going to be at the top. What can I do? And this is where you need to know something about impression share. Impression share is based on how your ad is ranked. So Google have a special algorithm and it ranks your ad on a scale of 0 to 100. And yes, it is based on how much you're willing to pay for that click. But here's the key bit, it's also based on quality score. So this means if you can make your ad more relevant, than a competitor, you can still pay less, but you can still outrank them and get higher impression share. So as I said, the whole point of this case study was to keep the budget the same, but increase impression share, because more impression share means more people seeing your ads, which means more people to the site, which means more revenue, more customer growth. So how can we increase quality score? Well, think of it like this. We need to make these ads more relevant. And imagine you're the tourism board of Sweden, okay? You want to attract more people to come and live in your country. How do you do that? You could just fly across the world, go to a random city and say to people, come and visit Sweden, come and live in Sweden. You'll love it. And you might get a few, but the chances are you won't have a very high success rate. What if you, instead of doing that, you did a survey, right? You asked people, what is it that you love about living in Sweden? What's the culture like? What's the food like? What's the weather like? You took all that data and you overlaid it over cities of the world. What you'd probably find is there are particular cities around the world that are quite close to Sweden or in some way have traits that resemble Sweden. Then you send your team to those places, and those are the places where you try and recruit people. That's effectively what we're going to be doing here. We're not changing the message that we're giving out, which is basically come and buy from us. Instead, we're going to change who we're targeting. And we're going to find our most successful customers, our most high-value customers, And then we're going to tell Google, go out and find people in your broad infinite wisdom, go out and find people who look and have similar traits to these high value customers. And that's the aim here. So I'm going to give you the sort of technical details of how we went about that. All right, so 3 things you need to do. Number 1, you need to collect all the data signals, of course, to do this. Second, you need to segment that group of people. And finally, you need to activate them. So let's start at the beginning. To capture the data, as was said in that panel earlier, this is critical. And I think this is where most people are starting down the road. So what we decided to do was capture all the behavioral data from the website, which was coming from Google Analytics 360. But we also needed to make sure we put in refund data. This store they have 300 offline stores. So we needed to get that data in. We needed app data. So not all of that stuff was in GA. So we also needed to get cooperation from their IT teams to give us that data. And we merged it all into BigQuery. So this is what it looks like in the sort of high-level technical architecture. You've got all the data sources. Some data is going into GA 360. Some's going into their back-end systems. But ultimately, it's all flowing into the blue dot there, which is Google's BigQuery. And for those of you who don't know, BigQuery is I'm simplifying it massively, but it's basically a large-scale database in the Google Cloud Platform. So all your data is now there. Second, we need to identify who are these people? Who are our best customers? And we're going to do that by looking at how profitable we predict them to be. Now, notice here I'm using the word profit. A lot of people doing this will try and do it based on revenue or not include refunds. We want to be as accurate as possible, so we need to make sure that we're pulling in profit data, which is what we got from their back-end system. So how do we do that? We use 2 models. Number 1, this is where I'm getting a bit technical, but I won't go too deep, don't worry. The first thing we did was RFM modeling. If you've been around the industry a while, this is a thing that supermarkets do with their club card data as well. It's not a new technique to digital. We're just applying it to digital. Essentially, all you're doing is you're classifying people based on how recently they bought, how frequently they buy, and how much they spend with you. But that's not quite good enough. So that gives us 25 buckets of people. And to put this into context, the amount of people we're segmenting is bigger than the population of Denmark. Okay, this is about 6 million people we're trying to put into these buckets. So it's quite a large task. Now you've got to bear in mind that the problem with RFM is someone may have bought recently, have only just joined your site. And what you're doing is you're comparing them to someone who may have been a customer for a year. And that person who's been a customer for a year has had multiple opportunities to buy from you. So you might think, oh, that person who's been with us 12 months is a better customer than the one who's just bought once. What you need to do is actually predict where someone's going to go next. Which segment are they going to move into next? And to do that, that's the second phase. So we take those 25 buckets. We applied something called a Markov chain. For those of you who are into stats, Markov is a Russian mathematician, or was. And it basically predicts how people move around these different buckets. And from that, we were able to take these 6 million people and group them into 4 distinct buckets. So right at the top, very high value customers, high lifetime value and predicted lifetime value. At the bottom, low lifetime value, and the 2 in the middle, 2 like medium lifetime values. Okay, this is what it looks like, again, in the cloud. Notice how we are still using the data from BigQuery to do this. Essentially, it's just writing SQL queries, which is the language that you use to query databases. So you can see all of this segmentation is done within BigQuery. The thing at the top right there is called Cloud Composer. And you think of this as the conductor of the orchestra. It's the thing that tells you when different things should do stuff, all right? So this is the thing that says, as soon as the data is uploaded, you need to run this query. And when you finish that query, we're going to run this one. So it's kind of orchestrating this whole process, because ultimately, as we talked about earlier, agility is key. You don't want to be doing this or having someone in the company do this manually, because they will forget, they'll go on holiday. You need this to be automated and set up in an automated way. So Cloud Composer kicks everything off, runs all the queries in BigQuery, and the output of that is this 6 million customers is basically a list with customer IDs, and which bucket they belong to, the 4 buckets. And then we store that result. So now that's the first 2 stages. We've got all the data together. We've segmented it. The next stage, we need to activate it. And remember, the whole point of this, the KPI we're going after, is impression share. How do we do that? We make our ads more relevant. How do we do that? We look for people who look like our best value or our highest lifetime value customers. So in order to do that, we need to get that list of high value customers into the Google Marketing Platform. Right now, it's sitting on GCP, Google Cloud Platform. We need to move it into Google Marketing Platform. And again, we don't want to do this manually. This has to be automated. So here's what it looks like. We use another 2 of the modules within Google Platform. One is called Cloud Functions. Cloud Functions, essentially imagine it as someone who's just watching for a file, okay? And as soon as it sees a new file get dropped into a folder, it goes, I need to do something with that. And it starts running and it starts feeding all of those customers, all the segments back into Google Analytics, and then from Google Analytics into Google Ads. I don't have time to kind of talk about why we went through Google Analytics, but the part of the reason is it allows you to then analyze what behaviors are the high value customers doing on your site versus the low value. So that's one reason. All right, so we've now got this full model set up where you get all the data together, you segment people, and the end result is we've got lifetime value lists within Google Analytics and Google Ads. And we asked Google to go away and find people who are similar to those high value customers. And we want to give it a bit of emphasis. We want to tell Google this audience is important to us. So we apply a bid adjustment. We upweight those bids by 10%. And we downweight the people who are less valuable to us by 10%. So we keep the budget about the same. And for the stats, the high value LTV people it was about 300,000 out of this 6 million. So most of the people tended to fall into the medium and low. So we're actually saving money by applying those bid modifiers down to the people who are less valuable to us. Okay, so those are the 3 steps. You collect the data, you segment it, and you activate it. I'm going to show you what the full system looks like that we built up. So this is the collection. That feeds into the segmentation. And then finally, we activate. And that's what's great about the Google Cloud Platform. You can literally plug and play the different modules depending on what you want to do. If they came to us with a different use case tomorrow, we already have the foundation in place. We've already got that data there, and we can just spin up a few more cloud products to do whatever they want to do. Okay, so what do the results look like? The thing we're trying to do. I'm going to show you 2 sets of results. One is from Google Shopping and one is from Google Search. They're both run over December to February period this year. And I'm going to compare them to having no audience. So I'm going to show you the uplift figures of our audiences and some other audiences compared to no audience. Okay, so first of all, we took a regular audience from Google Analytics. So this is what you're doing if you're kind of in the emerging stage of digital maturity. You're taking everyone who has bought according to Google Analytics, and you're creating an audience from them. That obviously doesn't take into account profitability, doesn't take into account refunds. And you can see here the results. Yes, you get slightly better CPC, but and the conversion rate does go up. So a success, right? But then compare it to the high lifetime value audience. This one, we got 11% decrease in CPC, despite having those bid modifiers, and 120% increase in conversion rate based on no audience. So this sort of more sophisticated approach to building your audiences is more effective than, well, definitely more effective than no audience, and more effective than a standard remarketing audience that you might be using. Also, if you're not currently using GA to push audiences to Google Ads, even basic audiences, you're missing a trick here, because you can see there 61% conversion rate just on a standard. Having GA 360 is worth it. So get your team on that if you haven't. Okay, so that's shopping. What about search? In shopping, you don't get impression share numbers. So here they are in search. So first thing, I compared it to a standard in-market audience. For those of you who don't know what in-market audiences are, this is based on Google's third-party data, the stuff they know about, they infer from you based on which sites you visited. And you can see compared to no audience, it really doesn't have much effect. The in-market audience actually converted worse than having no audience. I suspect this is because it's such an obvious audience that all your competitors have applied it as well. So you're not getting any competitive advantage. What about the standard audience, the standard remarketing audience? Well, again, we had some success here, 85% increase in impression share. And remember what that means. That means 85% more people are seeing your brand for only a 4% increase in cost per click. So that alone is a great thing. Conversion rate was a little bit down, ROAS was a little bit down though, so that's a problem. And then finally, our audience, so the high LTV, similar to high LTV audience, 92% increase in impression share. At the expense, yes, 9% increase in cost per click, but remember we put up the bid modifiers by 10%, so that is acceptable to us because we're also down weighting the people by 10% who we don't think are going to convert. And that led to a 71% increase in conversion rate and 122% increase in ROAS. So what does this all mean? It basically means if you use the Google Cloud platform effectively, you can get some really, really good results, and you can do it all in a way that's automated. So the challenges I see are getting everyone aligned in your business, right? I see so many times where the marketing team and the IT team has gone off and bought this new technology, and they haven't thought about how it integrates with the Google marketing platform or haven't talked to the marketers. You've really got to try and stop that. You need to get everyone in a room. And actually something that we do at Jellyfish is we do these 2-day workshops where we literally get all the stakeholders from every part of the business, IT, CRM, the marketing team, all in a room to really get them to think about what are they trying to achieve in the next 12 months and how is this technology all going to come together. And we've seen great results from doing this because you're not going to succeed if just the marketing team wants to do this and the other teams don't. Automation, like we said earlier, agility is key. You've got to get this stuff automated. It's no good if it's sitting in a file in Excel on someone's machine. One, your computer probably can't handle the amount of data, but two, it's not automated. You've got to get these things working effectively. And then finally, like I said, it's really important that the IT team, the people who build this infrastructure for you, have done it before and they know how it connects with the Google marketing platform and they know the objectives of the marketing team. So I really encourage you to work with a partner who knows both of those aspects and has done this before, because it's all very well showing the jigsaw and it is relatively straightforward, but there are so many nuances and complications which can arise that it's really worth working with a partner who's done this before. So in summary, I'm hoping that I've fulfilled my promise, which was to show you how in a fiercely competitive industry like the retail space, you can, without increasing your budget, actually get your brand out there to far more people. And if you're just starting out your journey, I'd really encourage you to use the Google Cloud platform to achieve that. You can get some great results. And the thing is, if you're not, you can probably bet that your competition is getting started. So give it a go. Thank you very much.